Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good day to each of you. So, today we're going to discuss the last topics for our finals. I do hope you understand that it will be uh, a recording because, as the situation, so we are not totally unallowed to have the online class. Okay, so for the fluid flow on pipes. So, fluid flow is a part of fluid mechanics and deals with fluid in motion or fluid dynamics. It involves the motion of a fluid subjected to an unbalanced forces. This motion continues as long as unbalanced force are applied. For example, if you are pouring water from a mug, the velocity of the water is very high over the tip, moderately high approaching the lip, and very low at the bottom of the mug. The unbalanced force is gravity, and the flow continues as long as the water is available in the mug is tilted. For example, we have a mug. All right. So if we have a mag, all right. So we have a water or any fluid on a mag. Okay. And then this mag is tilted. So when we tilt this mag, so it will be looking like this. Okay. Then the water inside or the fluid inside will flow just like this. Okay. Then it says that the flow on this part is faster than the flow in this part because the as it goes tilted, the gravity pulling it faster, causing it faster velocity. Okay, pouring water from a mug, the velocity of the water is very high over the lip, so very high at this point, moderately high approaching the lip, and very low at the bottom of the mug. The unbalanced force is gravity. So again, there is something external that causing the fluid to flow. And that external force, it is the gravity or the tilt that we provided with the mag. So we have different types of fluid flow. So fluid flow has all kinds of aspects. We have the steady or unsteady flow, the compressible or incompressible, the viscous or non-viscous, rotational and irrotational, and to name a few, depend upon on what we are looking on the property of the fluid itself that is causing the flow. So for the fluid flow, let's have first a steady and or unsteady flow. When we see steady or unsteady flow, this is dependent on the velocity of the fluid. When the velocity of any point of that fluid is constant, then that flow is steady. While if it is changing because of the bumps or the friction or the pipe where the fluid is flowing, then that is unsteady. Well, compressible or incompressible fluid that is discussed in the first part of our midterms. So compressible fluids are mostly gases, while incompressible fluids are those of the liquids. For viscous and non-viscous, this is set or identified in terms of the fluid's viscosity. Again, viscosity, it is the ability of the fluid to resist flow. So when the fluid is viscous, then it is partly hard to flow, or there is some higher force that is needed for this one to flow. While if it is non-viscous, then it flows freely. Then the last one is the rotational and irrotational. When we say rotational and rotational, it is the pattern that the flow is providing. When we say rotational, then the flow is in circular form, while irrotational, then the flow is in parallel or in a single line form. And there are also other forms or types of fluid flow. Some of these characteristics reflect to the properties of the liquid itself, and the other focuses on how the fluid is moving. Again, for steady and non-steady flow, to better comprehend, a steady flow, example, Okay. So for steady flow, I have a pipe. Then there's a flow of water or flow of fluid. At point 1, the velocity is v1. At point 2, the velocity is v2. When v1 is equal to v2, or velocity 1 is equal to velocity 2, then the fluid is steady. But if we put something like this, let's say there's a bump here, so there will be a change in area. If we change in area, then the velocity will also change just to conform in the charge continuity equation. So here, velocity 1 will not be any more equal to velocity 2. So the velocity changes. As the velocity changes, then the flow could be called unsteady flow. Okay, so the flow gets faster here, then the flow gets slower back here. So steady, in steady flow, the velocity of the fluid is constant at any point. When the flow is unsteady, the fluid velocity can differ between any 2 points. For viscous and non-viscous, it's simply about viscosity. Liquid flow can be viscous or non-viscous. Viscosity is a measure of the thickness of a fluid, and very gloppy fluids such as motor oil or shampoo are called viscous fluid. And let's now talk about laminar flow and turbulent flow. To start, laminar flow, when the fluid is flowing in a laminar regime, its flow behavior is very easy to visualize and understand. Flow is driven entirely by external force, which are usually just gravity and the driving pressure. Laminar flow is sometimes characterized as only occurring in incompressible inviscid fluid, and that is incorrect. The Euler equation can be used to predict flow behavior in the case of inviscid incompressible flows, while the general Navier-Stokes equation would be used to other flow situations where the turbulence may arise or the fluid is compressible. In laminar flow, the fluid undergoes a smooth linear flow that generally follows the boundary in the system flow. If it follows the boundary, if the boundary is a cylindrical, then the flow is also in the cylindrical, just following the volume or the shape of the pipe or the channel that it is flowing. Eventually, when the Reynolds Okay, for example, for the flow in a pipe, the flow pattern is relatively linear and does not experience strong fluctuation. Eventually, when the Reynolds number for the flow gets larger or large, the fluid flow behavior transitions from laminar to turbulent, and the middle part is what we call as our transition region. And this is how the laminar flows is being visualized. So laminar flow, it is somehow also related to steady and parallel flow. Laminar flow only affected by gravity and the force pushing the fluid to flow and no changes in velocity, or the flow is constant, or the flow is somehow, the term is calm. Okay? Calmado. While when we say turbulent flow regime is the other end of the flow spectrum, corresponding to very fast flow rates. Turbulence is one of the most mathematically complex areas of fluid dynamics, generally requiring numerical techniques and specialized models to examine flow behavior. When turbulence arises, fluid flow becomes convective or vertical. During a flow, convective or vertical simply having rotational, paikot-ikot, ipo-ipo, uh, vertical, which arises in the boundary layer and begins growing and expands along the flow direction. Turbulent flow behavior is not necessarily random, although statistical approaches can be used to quantify the amount of turbulence. Some of the study on the first part of the 19th century says the turbulent flow is randomly. But with the further study with Navier, with Reynolds, they have calculated how this flow is affected by certain parameters, certain external forces, and even the physical attributes of the channel that the fluid is flowing making that flow is predictive. So yes, turbulent flow is somehow very um, complex, having all these turbulent vortices, but still it can be predicted and can be studied, but it is a more deepened structure of fluid mechanics. Instead of being random, the specific trajectory of turbulent flow is deterministic and can be predicted, but it is highly sensitive to initial conditions and boundary conditions. In addition, ostensibly, laminar flow could quickly turn turbulent given some small changes in system parameter orientation, density, flow rate. An excellent example occurs in aerodynamics where the airflow over an airfoil can become turbulent as the angle of attack changes. So if you could remember the airplane, so the airplane have this airfoil. So as it changes the shape, or the angle of attack changes, then the velocity also changes, even though other flow parameters remain unchanged. So this is how the turbulent flow. So simply, this turbulent flow, if you could see, it is starting, or it starts only with a laminar flow. But as we had these changes in our shape, or there is a physical change or a frictional change or a bump here, it causes two changes in the area. As the change in area, the velocity gets higher to satisfy the continuity, or the flow rate 1 will be equal to flow rate 2, and causing the distortion or the complex flow of the fluid, which is called as the turbulent flow. And this is not only like this could all be also on a way turbulently moving, just like that. Or there are some that is moving like that. So that is turbulent flow. And of course, on this part, there is a part where the change happen. So all of this change happened on a certain point, and that is what we call as the transition region. Transition region, there is a region of Reynolds number values called as a transition region wherein the flow behavior begins to change from laminar to turbulent. This should underscore that there is no sharp dividing line between the laminar regime to turbulence. The typical behavior observed in turbulent flow eventually becomes dominant at high Reynolds number. The exact range of Reynolds number is system specific and fluids specific, and even very similar to systems could have very different Reynolds number. Values beyond turbulence become dominant. So the underlying physics that causes the fluid to begin behaving turbulent versus laminar as a function of Reynolds number is still a matter of investigation. As a result, there have been many models developed that attempt to model and understand the mechanism governing the transition from laminar to turbulent flow. A good overview of contemporary transitional flow models can be found in the following reference. So again, this is our transition region. Transition region is where the laminar changes to turbulent. So the part where the change starts. And there is also a certain value provided by Reynolds, so we could identify that that flow is in transition region. And here is the Reynolds number. Okay, so right now, let us talk about Reynolds number. Re is our Reynolds number, which is also equal to inertial force over viscous force. Rho is our density of the fluid. V is the velocity of the flow. D is the pipe diameter. And mu is our viscosity of the fluid. Right. If the Reynolds number calculated is higher than 2000 or greater than 2000, then the flow of the pipe is said to be turbulent. If the real number is low or less than 2000, then the flow is said to be laminar. Numerically, these are acceptable values, although in general, laminar or turbulent flows are classified according to a range. Laminar flow falls below Reynolds number of 1100, and turbulent flow falls in the range greater than 2200. And between 1100 to 2200, that is what we call as transition region. Laminar flow is a type of flow which the fluid travels smoothly in regular paths. Conversely, turbulent flow is smooth flow that and follows irregular path with lots of is the range of the inertial forces of the viscous forces with a fluid which is subjected to relative internal movement due to the difference fluid viscosity. A region where these forces can behavior is known as the boundary layer, such as the bounding surface in the interior pipe. Sir, what is the difference with this letter V and this viscosity mu? So this is what we called as our kinematic viscosity or kinematic velocity, which we have discussed, which is V squared over 2G. While this one is our viscosity, and this U is our velocity. Okay? Then, Reynolds number is defined as where rho is density of the fluid in kilogram per meter cube. U or the V na maarte, that is the fluid speed or flow speed in meter per second. L is the characteristic of linear dimension, or simply it is also the diameter most of the time. Mu, it is the dynamic viscosity of the fluid. Pascal second, Newton second per meter squared, or kilogram per meter second. Meter second. Then V is the kinematic viscosity of the fluid in meters squared per second. Number one, calculate Reynolds number if a fluid having dynamic viscosity of 0.4 Newton second per meter squared. So we have our dynamic viscosity or the mu. Newton Pascal second, that is 0.4 Newton per meter squared second. And relative density, that is equal to 900 kilogram per meter cube. Then through a pipe of 20 millimeter, so we have pipe diameter of 20 millimeters and a velocity of 2.5 meters per second. Then a velocity of 2.5 meters per second. So simply, let's just have it or substitute to the equation. Re, Reynolds number, is equal to the density of 900 kilogram per meter cube multiply to our velocity of 2.5 meters per second multiply to our diameter of 20 millimeter, dividing it by 1,000 millimeter to obtain it into the meters or converting it into the meters, all over our mu or dynamic viscosity of 0.4 Newton per meter squared second. So kilogram meter per second squared meter cube cancel for meter squared meter. Then we will be having 112.5 unit less. And if this is 112, looking back, Reynolds number, if Reynolds number is greater than 2000, then that is turbulent. When Reynolds number is less than 2,000, then that is laminar. So this one is laminar. Reynolds number 112 and the flow is laminar. Next, to determine the flow of fluid having relative density of 100 kilogram per meter cube. So relative density, which is equal to 100 kilogram per meter cube. The viscosity of, we have viscosity 0.5 Newton meter squared second, and a velocity of 5 meters per second through a pipe of 0.2 meter with a diameter of 0.2 meters. Again, formula, Reynolds number is simply equal to density multiplied to velocity multiplied to diameter all over our dynamic viscosity. We have our density of 100 kilogram per meter cube multiplied to our velocity of 5 meters per second with the pipe diameter of 0.2 meters and a dynamic viscosity of 0.5 Newton second meter squared. And our Reynolds number, having on the calculator 100 times 5 times 0.2 divided by 0.5 is simply equal to 200. And 200 unit less, and this is also laminar flow. Okay, then let's have example number 3. going to discuss head loss. What does head loss mean? On the first part of our finals, we have discussed head. And even though there is a head, there's also changes in elevation, there's also fluid flowing, then there should be also losses within the span of the flow of the fluid within the pipes. Head loss refers to a measurement of the energy dissipated in a fluid system due to friction along the length of a pipe or hydraulic system, and those due to fittings, valves, and other system structures. The total head loss of fluid as it moves through a fluid system is the sum of the elevation of head, velocity head, and pressure head losses. If you could see elevation head, let's write here. Elevation head, that is our Z. Velocity head, that is our V squared over 2G. While our pressure head, that is our rho G over specific weight. And each of that has its own losses, and that is the elevation head loss, velocity head loss, and pressure head losses. Head loss is unavoidable in real fluid systems containing liquid or gases. It is a result of the friction between the walls of a pipe and the fluid that is that the turbulence that is caused whenever the fluid flow is redirected or obstructed in any way by components such as piping, entrances, and exits pump, valves, and fittings. When analyzing piping system, pressure loss is the utmost importance due to the viscous effects along the length of the system, as well as other additional pressure losses arising from the attached equipment. Head loss is the measure is a measure of reduction in the total head, sum of elevation head, velocity head, and the pressure head of the fluid as it moves through a fluid system. Head loss is unavoidable in real fluids. It is present because of the friction between fluid and the walls, just like what we have discussed earlier. Friction loss is the part of the total head loss that occurs as the fluid flows through straight pipe. The head loss for fluid flow is directly proportional to the length of the pipe square of the fluid velocity in terms of accounting for the fluid frictional cost, as the head loss is the inversely proportional diameter of the pressure loss. So this is our head loss, which is proportional to friction multiplied to the length multiplied to the velocity squared over the diameter. While friction factor has been determined to depend on the Reynolds number for the flow and the degree of roughness of the pipe's inner surface. So say friction factor, that is something to be obtained or to be obtained from our one of our graphs, just dependent on the flow or the Reynolds number provided on the given system. The quantity used to measure the roughness of the pipe is called the relative roughness, which is equal to the average height of the surface irregularities divided by the pipe di diameter. So simply relative roughness is equal to irregularities multiplied to or divided by the pipe diameter. The value of the friction factor is usually obtained from the Moody chart, an example of which shown below. The Moody chart can be used to determine the friction factor based on Reynolds number and a relative roughness. So this is our Moody chart. So for this our Moody chart, most of the time relative roughness is always given. So that could be already provided. So for example, earlier, the last problem we have, our Reynolds number is around 338. So 338, we are just going to locate 338 in this lower part in the Reynolds number R. So it should be in feet, velocity, feet per second. Okay, no need because Reynolds number is unitless. So here, let's look for 308. Here is for the laminar flow. If this is the laminar flow, then for the friction factor, we are just going to use 64 over R. So here is only the laminar flow part of the Reynolds number, our earlier um, obtained is only laminar flow. So we are, for example, our relative roughness is 0.004. So just locate 0.004 here. Okay. Then our friction factor will be, and for example here, simply 64 divided by R. And what is that R? That is the Reynolds number. So 64 divided by 386, 64 divided by 386, then our friction factor to be used is equal to 0.16 5803,108. That is only for laminar flow. So this is only for the laminar flow. This is the laminar flow, if you could see. Let's erase. Maybe it was. But for example, we have a turbulent flow of 2,000, 2,600 here. 2,600, laminar flow of 2,600. Turbulent flow of 2,600 or Reynolds number of 2,600. So that is 2,600. Then we have a relative roughness of 0.04. Then 0.04 relative roughness. You just follow this through. Okay. And this is our frictional factor, which is equal to 0.04. So friction factor is equal to 0.04. Gets? How about if it's still 2,600 but relative roughness is equal to 0.0002? So we were just going to follow the line. So this is going up, that one. And this one is under some somewhere 0.004142. 0.004, no, 003, 0035, 6, 7, 8, 9, 0035, 36, 37, 38, no, 36, 37, 38, 0.00, 0.038. Here is 0.038. 2, 4, 6, 2, 4, 0.0036. I'm sorry. So 0.036 is our friction factor in twos. So 0.032, 0.034, 0.036, 0.038, and 0.04. So that is how we use this Moody chart in obtaining our friction factor. If laminar, use F is equal to 64 over the Reynolds number. And if it is friction, if it is turbulent, then we should have the friction factor here. Okay? We should locate it using this one. Or we could also have friction factor for turbulent is equal to head loss due to the friction or frictional head loss all over length, all over distance, multiplied to velocity squared over 2g. So v squared over 2g, that is our um, kinematic or velocity head, v squared over 2g, length over diameter for calculation of frictional or friction factor. So kapag Moody chart ng gamit, so we are just locating, we only need the relative roughness, which is always given, and the calculated Reynolds number. Okay, that is for the Moody chart. This is called our Moody chart. Then, head loss. Example, determine the friction factor for fluid flow in a pipe that has a Reynolds number of 40,000 and a relative roughness of 0.01. So let's try this, 40,000 and 0.01. So right now, let's talk about head losses. So the first equation we have is what we call as the Darcy's equation. The frictional head loss can be calculated using a mathematical relationship that is known as Darcy's equation for head loss. The equation takes two distinct forms. The first form of Darcy's equation determines the losses in the system associated with the length of the pipe. So for the first head loss, which is HF, or frictional head loss, so let's write it here. HF is also known as what we called as the frictional head loss. We have the formula of the friction factor F, which sometimes given, sometimes obtained by Moody chart, multiplied to the length of the pipe. So the length of the pipe multiplied to the diameter of the pipe multiplied to the velocity of the fluid all over 2 multiplied to the gravitational force, or simply this is our velocity head, v squared over 2g. So that's our HF, or frictional head loss. Simply HF is equal to friction factor multiplied to length divided by the diameter multiplied to our velocity head. Equation F is our friction factor, unit length is moves in feet, diameter also in feet, fluid velocity feet per second, and gravitational pull is feet per second squared. If as a unit, then this is meter. Diameter of pipe is also meter. Velocity is meter per second. And our gravitational pull is meter per second squared. Still, frictional factor is unitless. So for this one, we already obtained our Reynolds number from our equation earlier. A Reynolds number is equal to 83960836.28. Well, given is our relative um, roughness, which is 0.00008, and locating that 0.0008, 0.0004001, 0.00005. So that is 004 somewhere 240506 here, somewhere here, this one 0.008. Okay, so this is the 0.008. Then for our Reynolds number, let's have 183 million. So 83 million is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 8 times 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 8 times 7 is this one, somewhere here. Okay, and we will obtain a value of our friction factor, which will be equal to somehow 0.0, 0.01, 2, that's 15, that's 2, then 1, 12, 13, 14, 15, 12, 13, 14, 15, 11, 0.011. Our friction factor is equal to 0.011. So we already have our friction factor. Okay, so we already obtained all the necessary values. So again, our frictional head loss formula is equal to the friction factor multiplied to length over diameter multiply to velocity squared over 2g. For our friction factor is equal to 0.011. Our length is 100 feet. Then our diameter is equal to 20 inches, or simply when we convert 20 inches, let's just have this 20 inches times in every 1 feet, there are 12 inches times our velocity, which is obtained earlier to be 5.34. So 5.34760688 feet per second squared all over 2 times our gravitational pull is 32.2 feet per second squared, 2g. And simplifying, we have, therefore, calculating or putting it in our calculator, our head loss due to friction, or our frictional head loss, is simply equal to 0.2930 7, 3, 8, 1, 3, 1. And this one is in, so cancel feet. Then here a second squared, feet squared, feet. Then this is on feet. So our head loss, or due to friction, or our frictional head loss, is simply equal to 0.2930738131 feet. And that's the head loss for the pipe. Okay. Okay, and for another type of loss is what we call as the minor losses. The losses that occur in the pipelines due to bends, elbow joints, valves, etc. are sometimes called as minor losses. This is a misnomer because in many cases, these losses are more important than the loss due to pipe friction considered in the preceding section. For all minor losses in the turbulent flow, the head loss varies as the square of the velocity. Thus, a convenient method of expressing minor losses in flow is by means of a loss coefficient K. So we're going to substitute a part of our equation with a loss coefficient that is symbol K. Values of loss coefficient K for typical situation and fittings is found in the standard handbooks. The form of Darcy's equation used to calculate minor losses of individual fluid system components is expressed by HF is equal to K all over V squared over 2G. If you're going to compare this one to our frictional head loss earlier, so simply when we see frictional head loss, HF is equal to uh, friction factor multiply to length multiply to the diameter multiply to velocity squared over 2g. Therefore, this loss coefficient is simply frictional factor multiplied to length divided by the diameter. So the equivalent of piping length, minor losses may be expressed in terms of the equivalent length or the LEQ, LEQ. So that's the equivalent length or the LEQ of pipe that would have the same head loss for the same discharge flow rate. This relationship can be found by setting the two forms of Darcy's equation equal to each other. So this is our Darcy's equation and this is our minor losses. Darcy's equation, then this is our minor losses, equating both sides, then yields to two relationship. We could see that LEQ or our equivalent length is equal to our proportional or loss proportionality K multiplied to diameter divided by the friction factor, or K is equal to friction factor multiplied to length equivalent all over diameter. And this one, this K or loss coefficient is equal to friction factor multiplied to length equivalent all over diameter. We have typical values of length equivalent or equivalent length divided by diameter for common piping system components are listed in the following table. The equivalent length of piping that will cause the same head loss as particular component can be determined by multiplying the value of the equivalent length over diameter for the component by the diameter of the pipe. The higher the value of length over D, the longer the equivalent length of the pipe. So here are the typical values of the LEQ over D. So we have a blue bulb conventional is 400, Y pattern is 160 for gate valve, fully open is 10, 75% open is 35, 50% open is 150, and 25% open is 900, while standard P flow through run is 10, flow through branch is 60, 90 degree standard elbow 30, 45 degree standard elbow 60, the return bend is 50. So for our example, let's A fully open gate valve is in a pipe with a diameter of 10 inches. What equivalent length of pipe would cause the same head loss as the gate valve? So, comparing a fully open gate valve and a gate valve. So let's have this. From table 1, from the table earlier, we find that the value of LEQD for a fully open gate valve is 10. So LEQ is equal to LEQ over D multiplied to D, then 10 multiplied to 10 inches is equal to 100 inches. So that's our equivalent length. By adding the equivalent lengths of all components to the actual length of the pipe in the system, we can obtain LEQ value for the entire piping.